Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining today's session. And in today's session, we'll be discussing about the Oracle Cloud Guard. So let's get started. So this is a safe harbor statement. And this is the agenda for today's session. So we'll talk about what is CloudGuard and what is Oracle CloudGuard is offering in the CSPM tool space, right? And what are the capabilities and a couple of use cases where you can use the OCI CloudGuard and also where the CloudGuard is heading in the cloud space, right? So what are the roadmaps? And also I have I built an environment for today's demo. So we can also go through a few of the use cases and then we can do a Q&A session at the end. Before jumping into the CloudGuard, right? So let me set the context at a high level. Why we need an cloud security posture management tool in the cloud space, right? So there is a small formula here in terms of the cloud applications. So here is a survey of how their customers are developing the cloud native applications or migrating the cloud applications. So the formula here says that, let's say, how many number of applications, instances of applications that you're running on a cloud, right? Into the number of the application setting that you're configuring for those application instances. Adding to that, the number of the settings or the resources that you're running to support those applications, right? The resources could be an object storage or a bucket or an VCN, a compute instance, a file storage, or in terms of an OCI, it could be an OCI database systems as well, right? And there are a number of application resource configurations that need to be configured for those resources. So this is a small formula which gives you an extrapolation value. Let's say if there is a 2 application instances and if you're having a 500 application settings for it and an average of 10 average settings per resource. As I said, the resource is, let's say, a VCN. Inside the VCN, you have then the security list, the subnets, then the dynamic routing gateways, the internet gateway, the NAT gateway, into, let's say, 15,000 resources you're running on the cloud, right? So together, it will be 150,000 settings to maintain. So which is a lot, right? So this is a small formula to suggest what is the complexity for the customers for moving to the cloud. So this is the second column shows a survey from the Gartner that how the customers are moving towards the cloud space. So there is an exponential growth of the customers moving from the on-premise world to the cloud or developing the cloud native applications in the cloud, right? So when there are a lot of technologies they are moving in, we also have the fewer expertise who are aware of the security concerns, right? So there is a lack of security knowledge as well. So now you need a service where you can turn on, where you can manage, and also where it is easy to maintain, which will give you a global overview of what is happening in your cloud environment, right? So you might need in one page or one pane of a glass where you want to sit and analyze, okay, this is my environment, these are my resources, and these are the security misconfigurations are there in my tenancy, and this is how I can improve my security posture. So you need a tool which basically explains you all of these features at one place. So this is the need for the CSPM tool, right? So understanding these gaps with the customers, Oracle developed a solution called as an Oracle Cloud Guard. So Oracle Cloud Guard is basically a cloud security posture management tool. It will examine your entire OCI tenancy, the resources that you are running in the Oracle Cloud, and it will look for if there is any potential threat or the security violations or the misconfiguration that a user has configured in the OCI, right? That might lead to the potential threat. So it will basically look for those kinds of the events or the problems in the Oracle tenancy. And if it has identified any such problems, then it will let the administrator know, okay, I have identified so and so problems. Not just letting the administrator know, it will also help you how you can resolve those identified problems, right? So one, it will give you an automatic response which you can apply it from the console, and there are a couple of ways how you can fix those problems, right? That we'll see in the coming slides. But on a high level, this is what the Cloud Guard is doing as of today in the Oracle Cloud. So what is the purview of the Oracle Cloud, right? So what is the coverage? So what are the services that CloudGuard is covering? So these are the services right from the VCN to your network gateways or the security list, the container engines, the OCI vault, in case if you're using the key management services, the data safe, the autonomous database and the database system. So all of the Oracle native services are tightly integrated with the CloudGuard so that you can monitor all of the resources under one through one application or through one service, right? That is the CloudGuard. So this is the coverage of the CloudGuard as of today. And these are few of the questions when we talk about the CloudGuard, right? Let's say you have a data center or let's say if you have subscribed for the London region, right? And you might be running or you have enabled the CloudGuard at the London region, and you might be having the couple of resources that you might be running in another subscribed region, maybe a Frankfurt and the Ashburn. So you might have a question like, okay, if I enable the CloudGuard at one region, can I monitor all of my resources which are running in the other regions as well? So the answer is yes. So the CloudGuard gives you a global overview of your entire OCI tenancy, right? So irrespective of where the your resources are running in, irrespective of the regions, it gives you a global overview of all of the resources in the different regions. So we have a concept of something called as a monitoring regions and the reporting region. And using those concepts, you can monitor all of your resources running in the different regions other than where you have enabled the CloudGuard. So that is one most common questions we get when we talk about the CloudGuard. And then how do I identify problems for my newly created resource, right? Let's say you have subscribed to the um, Frankfurt region and you have enabled the CloudGuard already in the Frankfurt region, right? And now let's say you have created a new resource after enabling. So if you have a question like, okay, for the newly created resource, do I need to go and make some changes to the CloudGuard? The answer is no. By default, once you have enabled the CloudGuard to your target, so your target can be a compartment or a root compartment or a child compartment, right? So by default, whatever the resource you create in those compartment, everything will be monitored. So you don't have to manually go and change any of the policies once you create a new resource. Then do I get to create or manage my own security policies? Yes, out of the box. This is the beauty of the Oracle CloudGuard, right? We have more than 80 CloudGuard detector recipes that you can use it to identify the potential threats in the tenancies. Apart from that, we also provide you the customizing options, right? Either if you want to disable the option or disable the rule for a couple of days, you can do that. Or if you want to permanently disable few of the rules, you can do it. Or if you want to have a conditions to the existing rules, you can do that. So out of the box, we provide a number of detector policies which you can use to customize according to the monitoring requirements you want to do it in the OCI tenancy. Then if you have questions like, can I integrate with the external SIM tool? So probably you want to export the logs out of the CloudGuard and you want to import it to your centralized SIM solutions, right? So that option is also available with the help of the CloudGuard. So you can use the OCI event and the notification services to monitor these activities inside the OCI. And in case if you want to export them outside of the Oracle Cloud and import it to your SIM solution, that option is also available. So you can integrate with your SIM tools as well. So these are the most common questions we get about the CloudGuard, and this is where the CloudGuard can help as well to manage your resource in the OCI. Now let's deep dive into the CloudGuard concepts, right? So we have few of the common terminologies we use it in the CloudGuard. Let's say it as a target. So the target is basically a compartment, right? It's like what you want to monitor. In the Oracle Cloud, every resources is associated with the compartment. So you create a database, you create a network resource, you create an object storage bucket or a compute instance. Everything is tied up to a compartment, right? So basically the target is your compartment. So it can be a root compartment or it could be a child compartment. So irrespective, let's say if you want to monitor your entire tenancy, you can attach the policy or you can enable the CloudGuard at the root compartment level. Or let's say you have a different compartments, right? Maybe you have a production compartment or you have a test and the development compartment and you want to enable it for each of these compartment with a separate detector policies, right? So you can attach it even the target as your subcompartments as well. So that is basically your target. Then we have the detector recipes. So basically you need some rules inside the CloudGuard, right, which can go and monitor the resources in the OCI. So those fall under the detector recipes. Then we have the problems. So once the detector identifies, if there is a threshold set for all of these detectors. So if the threshold is crossed, then it will emit it as a problem. So the problem, we have a different severity levels, right? From the low to the critical. It can be a low, minor, high, or a critical. You can customize the severity of the problems based on the organization needs. And once it emitted as a problem, as an administrator, you can apply the response. So we have the responders which are available, which we will talk about more in the coming slides. So we have the responders. So either you can choose to apply the response using those responders, or also you can apply the responses manually. So these are the few of the CloudGuard concepts. Okay, now what are the different kinds of the detector recipes, right? So detector recipes, as I said, has like these are the recipes which basically help you to analyze the security misconfigurations inside the OCI tenancy. So there is a threshold set for all of these detector recipes, and each of these recipes has a set of different detector rules, right? And if there is any violation from those detector rules, then those things are emitted as a problem. So these detector recipes are getting the events from the OCI audit events. So all of the information from the audit events are pulled to the CloudGuard, and that is how the CloudGuard will basically monitor the changes that is happening in the OCI tenancy. So we have two different kinds of detector. We have three different kinds of detector recipes. One is the configuration detector recipes and the activity detector recipe, and another one is the threat detector recipe. So the configuration detector recipes are more specific to the resource, and the activity detector recipes are more specific to the user behavior, right? So if the user is making any changes to the resource, those we categorize as the activity detector recipe. So then we have the threat detectors that we will discuss in the coming slides. So these are the three major detector recipes what we have it in the Oracle CloudGuard. So each of these recipes has their own set of rules, as I said, right? So by default, when you enable the Oracle CloudGuard, what you get is the Oracle managed recipes. So, and Oracle managed recipes gives you a certain set of standards, how these rules are to be, right? And what should be the priority of each of these rules, and what should be the severity levels of each of these problems which we identify in the CloudGuard. Let's say if you want to customize those rules according to your needs, right? So we also have an option called as a cloning. So you can clone those recipes and you can use it as a user managed recipe. So with the help of the user managed recipes, you can customize those rules. Let's say if you want to disable, or if you want to enable, or if you want to add a conditions to it, right? So all of those things you can do with the help of the user managed detector recipe. Similarly, we also have the problem life cycle, right? Let's say the problem has been identified because you have a detector recipe in place and the detector rule has been triggered. Because of this, the problem has been emitted. So what are the different kinds of problems you can see, right? So the problems can be anything from identified from your resource. So how you can fix those problems? So you have the three options over there. So one, either you can choose to remediate that problem. So that you can remediate using the cloud responders, which is the automatic one, or you can do it manually as a cloud administrator. You can go and resolve those problems, and you can remediate those problems. And then you have an option called as in resolved. So let's say you have manually made some changes to the cloud environment, and you want to, for the time being, you want to mark this problem as a resolved, right? You don't want to see it as a problem appear on the dashboard. So you want to mark it as a resolved. So you have that option. And another option is a dismiss. Let's say for the time being, you want to dismiss this problem because maybe you have created the few of the resources intentionally, and you don't want the CloudGuard to keep on showing to you as a problem on your screen. So for time being, if you want to dismiss the problem, you can do that as well. So similar to the detector recipes, we also have something called as in responder recipes. So the responder recipes has their own a certain set of responder rules in it. So based on how you configure it in the OCI, these responder rules come into the action. So either you can integrate the responders with the OCI event or notification services. Let's say you have identified a potential problem and you want to apply the automatic responses to the detected problems, right? So you can do that using the responder recipes, or if you want to alert the administrator, we have something called as a cloud event. So if you have enabled that feature inside the responder rule, it's like a rule. If you have enabled that, the administrator will basically get notified for those activities which has been identified in the OCI, and you can apply the response to those detected problems. This is one example of how you can utilize the Cloud Guard, right? Let's say you have created a bucket inside the OCI and you kept the bucket visibility as public. So we know, right, keeping the resources in a public is not a safer option when we are moving the resources to the cloud. So let's say you have created a bucket in the public, and maybe you created an object storage images you have imported into that bucket. So since the bucket is in the public, anybody with the pre-authenticated request for your resources can download the resources in your bucket from anywhere, right? So this is a potential threat. So maybe you have created the bucket unknowingly and kept it as a visibility as a public. So what should Cloud Guard do when it identifies such problems, right? So whenever that such a problems has been identified, has been presence in the OCI, we have something called as a configuration detector rule. So this rule gets triggered, and based on the severity which has been attached to this rule, it will emit it as a problem, right? So here we have created the configuration detector recipe, and we have a rule stating that if the bucket is in the public and I want to emit it as a critical problem, because we are considering it as a critical. So now it has emit the problem with the severity as a critical. So now comes the responder recipe, right? So what do you want to do with this detected problem? So one, you can integrate with the cloud event service, where that is integrated with the OCI events, and you can send the notification to the respective cloud administrator who need to be aware of this critical problem, or you can integrate it with the OCI functions and you can import it to your SIM tools. Okay, so that is one option. The another option is, as a Cloud Guard operator or an administrator, you can manually go and respond to those problems, right? You can manually go and change the bucket visibility to private. So this is one example how you can identify the problems from the Cloud Guard and also apply the response for those detected problems. So here the bucket has been changed to the private. So this you can make it automatic as well. Like whenever any bucket is found with a public visibility, you can say the Cloud Guard, okay, whenever you have identified such problems, without even notifying to the administrator, I want the bucket to be changed to the private. So those settings option is also available in the Cloud Guard. So that was an example with one of the buckets. But as we said, the target or the resources, the target is the compartment, right? And the compartment holds a different kinds of OCI resources. So here the bucket was just in one resource. In place of bucket, you can keep it an object storage, you can keep it a bare metal, you can keep it a database, compute instances, the network resources. So all of these resources can be monitored in the similar way with the Cloud Guard. So we have the detector recipes for all of these targets, and the rule get triggered and it emits as a problem. And once the problem has been emitted, the responder recipe will come into the action. So by default, the OCI event services are integrated with email addresses and the Slack pager duty. And let's say if you have any of the SIM solutions, we have the SDKs that you can readily available SDKs we have the few of the scripts as well. You can use it in the OCI functions and import it to your respective SIM solutions. Yeah. So we also have a service called as a threat intelligence service that is natively integrated with the Cloud Guard in the OCI. So this threat intelligence service basically gets the feed of the suspicious IP addresses from the third-party data from partner commercial feeds like the CrowdStrike, and the trusted open source feeds like the abuse.ch, Tor, and exit relays. So all of these things are integrated with the threat intelligence service. So it gets feeds from all of these different kinds of services, and that are fed into the threat intelligence service, and that information is also fed into the CloudGuard. So this is one such example, right? Let's say you have identified the suspicious IP address, or that is being trying to log into your OCI, or maybe you got an IP address that you want to check whether this is an malicious IP address or a trusted IP address. So where you can check those information, right? So that you can do it with the help of the threat intelligence. So we have a threat intelligence database where you can enter that IP address, or let's say if you have a mobile banking application and somebody is doing an SQL injection from a specific URL and you want to see whether that URL is a malicious URL or it has been having few of the payloads in the URL. So those URL or an IP address you can enter into the threat intelligence database, and it will give you a report saying that whether it is a malicious or not. So here you can see there is one IP address, and if you see the indicator history, this was in botnet and trying to do the brute force attack. So these are identified by the resources like the Oracle, the CrowdStrike, and the abuse.ch as well. And the most recently, this IP address has been also reported by the abuse.ch. So all of these information from the threat intelligence are also fed into the CloudGuard. So how these informations are fed into the CloudGuard? This is using the Oracle threat detectors. So OCI has something called as described in the previous slide. We have one more detector recipes called as in threat detectors recipes. So using those recipes, all of those informations are also pulled from the threat intelligence service to the CloudGuard. And this also is integrated with the this threat detector in the MITRE attack framework, and leverages the Oracle threat intelligence and the data science capabilities to surface the sightings of the nefarious behavior that really deserves your attention to detect the anomalies behavior in the OCI. So let's say this is one user example, right? This is an Anakin user. Somebody has got hold of his credentials and they're trying to do the password guessing. So within a week, we have also identified there is a password spraying. So these falls under the brute force attack, right? And we have also identified there is an impossible travel. So when we say impossible travel, let's say this user has logged into an OCI tenancy from the London, and within a span of 15 minutes, the user login is also been found from the Spain. So it is impossible for the user to travel between these two locations, right? So the CloudGuard will basically analyze the user behavior, how he is performing. It builds its own machine learning model. It will understand the user behavior, and it will assign a score board to those users so that the administrator can take an action of those users. So another way how you can use this threat detector is also, let's say you have different kinds of a group of users in the OCI, right? Maybe a network administrator, a database administrator, or a compute instance administrator. So the use of the database administrator is to create a database resources in the OCI, right? So now the threat detector will analyze what is his behavior or what is his role in the OCI tenancy, right? And it will evaluate him for a couple of days, and it will give him a certain set of a score. Let's say if he performs any action outside of his role, maybe he tried to create a compute instance which was not his usual behavior, right? Because he is a database admin and he is responsible only to manage the database. So if it identifies he is creating any of the compute instances, right, then it will attach a different risk score to him, and it will notify the administrator saying that, okay, we have identified a threat in the OCI tenancy. Do you want to take an action on that user, or particularly on that event which he has altered, right? Maybe he has touched the compute instance, so there is a change in the VC and there is a change in the security list. So the administrator will be notified of all such changes with the help of the OCI threat detectors. And then we also have the log inside detectors. So we have the logging services in the OCI, but that is a regional service. Let's say if you want to monitor your resources present in a different region, you have to create your own CQERs, which is nothing but the continuous query execution rules, and you want to replicate it multiple times in all of the regions, right? And maybe you're interested in knowing a global view of all of the applications log at one place. So that is where the CloudGuard is coming in the logging space now. So you can collect all of those information and you can view and analyze how your application is behaving, or the custom logs, how you want to monitor all of those things in the CloudGuard in the one dashboard, irrespective of where the logs you are bringing from, right? Maybe from a same region or a different region, but you are getting a global view of all of those information at one place. Yeah, so this is pretty much about the presentation I had for the CloudGuard. Now let's jump into the demonstration, right? Let me just reshare my screen again. Yeah, so yeah, this is my Oracle Cloud tenancy, and this is where the CloudGuard service is up and running, right? So here, this is the overview or the dashboard of the CloudGuard. So from the overview, you can see that we have something called as a security score rating, and then we have the risk score as well, right? So what is the security score rating? So basically the numeric security score indicates the percentage of the resource that CloudGuard examined and didn't flag as a potential problems, right? So it means the higher the security score, the better is your environment. So a security score of 100 would mean that no problems were detected for any of the resources running on the OCI. Then we have the risk score. So the risk score in the CloudGuard provides a rough estimation of the risk level to your environment that posed by the problems that CloudGuard detects. So the risk score is related to the number and the severity of the problems. In generally, the organization with many resources are likely to have more number of problems. So the security score rating and risk score are inversely proportional to each other. So the higher the security score rating, the better is your environment. So now as an administrator, you always want to try to keep up the higher security score rating, right? You want to keep your environment more secure. So how you can do that? So for that, the CloudGuard is also providing you the security recommendations. So we provide you the top 10 recommendations, which we identify, when I say I, that is a CloudGuard. So which CloudGuard identifies, okay, these are the potential problems. If you are able to resolve those potential problems, there is a high chances that you can increase your security score rating and lower your risk score. So for that, you can click on view recommendation, and that will give you a list of the recommendations that CloudGuard is advising you. So these are the top 10 recommendations that CloudGuard is providing you. And these are mostly the critical problems that CloudGuard is focusing on, right? So that is the problem that you would want to get rid of if you are in CloudGuard administrator and if you want to keep your environment more secure. And then you have a problem snapshot. So as I said, so as a CloudGuard administrator, you log on and you don't want to see any critical problems in your tenancy, right? So how do I resolve or just focus on my critical problems? So from this a graphical representation, you can just click on the critical, and that will take you to the list of all the critical problems that has been running in the your tenancies, so that you can target to clear firstly of those critical problems. Then you can also group the problems based on the compartment, regions, and as well as the resource types. So how you want to see what are the problems which are present, right? So you can group those things. And then we have something called as a user activity problem, right? Let's say, okay, you know that your applications that you're running on the OCI or your OCI tenancy are to be accessed only from a specific countries, right? And you have rules saying that, okay, they're not supposed to access from so and so countries, or maybe you don't have employees over there. So how do you monitor such actions or such logons to your OCI, right? So all of those informations you can get it from the user activity problem. So you can see from which region you are getting the more number of requests to the OCI, from where your users are trying to log in. So all of those information you can monitor from here. And then we have the responded status. So since this is a demo environment, you don't see much data here, but this is where, let's say, if you have responded to any of the problems from the for the CloudGuard using the CloudGuard responder recipes. So this is where you will see the responder status graph. And then we have few of the trend lines available, like a security score trend line and the new problems trend line. The security score trend line is like, okay, let's say you're an administrator and you see on the January 4th, you have an security score rating of maybe an 80. okay, which is good. And then on January 25, and you see that there is a sudden fall in your security score rating from 80 to 30, 32 or 34, right, which is a poor. So as an admin, you want to know what exactly happened on that specific day that made your security score rating go low, right? So that you can identify with the help of the new problem trend line. So you can go and analyze what exactly happened on that specific day that made your security score rating go down. So let me just click on here on January 13th. So it will list me out all of the information or all of the problems that has happened on that specific day that made my security score rating go down, right? So that will give you a problematic overview on per day basis as well as an administrator. And then if, as I said, if you have remediated any of the problems from the cloud card, you will see the remediation trend line as well. So this is the overview of the cloud guard. And let's go and check the targets, right? So for the demo purpose, I have created my compartment and added few of the resources over there. So I've created a compartment named lab, and I have few of the resources over there here, just two of the compute instance, and I have created a database with no database backup, and I've also created an object storage bucket with the public visibility, and of course the compute instance with few of the public IP addresses, and left few of the ports open intentionally so that my cloud guard flags it as a threat. So let's go to the target. So I have created a target named lab environment for my compartment. Here you can see the compartment. As I said, you can enable the cloud guard at the tenancy level as well, which is at the root. If not, you can enable it to your specific child compartments as well. Yeah, so for this, I have attached few of the detector recipes and the responder recipes. So these are few of the detector recipes, which are like on Oracle managed, as I said. So I have not cloned any of these things. I've just used what Oracle is providing, which are the Oracle managed recipes. Let's look into what are the rules which are present in these recipes, right? So this is the configuration detector recipes. As I said, each of these recipes has a number of rules inside it. So these are few of the rules. Let's say the bucket is public, which we have seen in the example. And if there is no MFA which is enabled, there is no database is not backed up automatically. So let's say you have not enabled the database backup, right? And if your database goes down, you lose all of your information, right? So it is not a best practice to enable database without a backup. So all of these misconfigurations that possibly can happen in the OCA, for all of those things, we have a rules so that the administrator knows what is happening in the tenancy and how we can overcome those misconfigurations as well. Let's just open one of them, right? Yeah, so yeah, the bucket is public, you can see, and the status is enabled, and the risk level is the critical, right? And you can also write a conditional group. Maybe you have created this bucket in the public visibility intentionally. Maybe you have a group of team who needs to access the objects which are present in those buckets, right? Maybe for an hour or two. So you have created a pre-authenticated request for an hour or two, and you want those team also to access the objects which are present in that bucket. But you don't want the cloud guard to alert or to show it as a problem on your dashboard, right? Because that will lower your security score rating. So how do you say cloud guard do not monitor these resources for time being, right? So for those, you can write a conditions. So you can select the parameter. For the bucket, you can give the bucket namespace or the taggings if you're using the OCI tagging, and then you can select it as an options like in not in or the in where these buckets are present, right? And you can create your own custom list or the managed list. So the custom list is, let's say if you have just one bucket, right? But let's say if you have several buckets that you want to keep it in a public for couple of hours, then you can create your own managed list and you can attach those lists here so that the cloud guard doesn't monitor these resources for a time being till you delete this conditional group, right? So this is how you can skip being monitored from the cloud guard and show it as an alert for all of the misconfigurations. Yeah. Let's say in instance as a public IP address. So that is also identified as a potential threat by the cloud guard, right? So here you have few of the options where similarly you can give the instance OCID value, and you can say okay, which is not in the custom list, and you can provide the OCID value of that compute instance so that it don't get monitored by the CloudGuard. So this is one example of the detector recipes. This was the configuration detector recipes. And similarly, we also have something called as an activity detector recipe. Yeah, so as I said, these are based on the user activity, right? How the user is behaving or what kind of an activity he is performing inside the OCI. So based on those, we have few of the activity detector recipes as well. And then we have the threat detector recipe. And we have the rogue user. Under the rogue user, we have different kinds of the citing type. So as we discussed in the presentation, the password guessing, the password spraying, the impossible travel, elevated number of parts or elevated access, where you got more number of privileges than what is required in the OCI tenancy, right? So all of these informations, these are associated with the MITRE attack techniques and the framework. So that is where we are picking up all of these informations and saying that, okay, these are highly potentially threat, or these are the anomaly detection. That is how we are classifying this information. Yeah, so similar to the detector recipes, as I said, we also do have the responder recipes. So I have attached the same Oracle managed responder recipe here. You can see there are a couple of responder rules inside a responder recipe, which you can use it automatically to respond to the detected problems. For the rest of the things, as an administrator, you can do it manually. And we also have the cloud event. So you need to enable this rule if you want to get notified for the critical problems or the any of the events that is happening inside the OCI tenancy which has been flagged by the CloudGuard, right? And also, let's say if you want to send all of these information to the same tool, so using the cloud event rule, you can send all of those informations as well. So these are, let's say if you have identified there was one rule, right, which we have seen, like an instance with a public IP address. So for those rules, we have something like a stop compute instance, terminate the compute instance, or delete the public IPs. So we provide all of these remediations. You can choose any one of these as an administrator, or choose it to keep it. You can choose to keep it automatic as well. That was about the target and the resource. Let's see a few of the problems, right? I just don't want to show you all of the problems, but just let me filter out the environment which we're using for the demo, right? So here you can see I've filtered out just my one of the target which I have created for a specific compartment. So based on the resources what I have created, these are the problems which has been identified by the CloudGuard, right? Let's say the bucket is public. So here I have an option if I want to remediate this problem, right? If I say, okay, go and make this bucket as a private, so by default, CloudGuard doesn't have an access to make a write over changes to your resources, right? So you need to add a policy statement for that. And once you add this policy statement, the CloudGuard will go and make this bucket visibility from the public to the private. So this is how you can remediate. Let's say if you want to mark it as a result, as I said, maybe you have forgot to add the conditional group and you have created this bucket with public visibility intentionally, right? So for time being, if you want to mark it as a resolve, you can mark it as a resolve, and then the history gets updated, right? So let's say if this issue is opened again, it will not open it as a new problem. Instead, it just update the history of the same problem. Or also, if you want to dismiss for time being, you can also dismiss. So here you have the problem history. You can see who has responded to this problem. So let's say if I mark it as a resolve, so it will have my information saying that, okay, who was the actor? Okay, the so-and-so person was the actor who marked it as in resolved or who marked it as in dismiss. So these informations you can get it from here. And the responder activity, this is based on the responder rule, how this event or how this rule got triggered, right? So that information you can find it in the responder activity. Then, as I said, you can create your own managed list. Unlike the custom list, you can create your own managed list. And let's say if you want to create a public compute instance with a public IP address, but you don't want to get alerted by the CloudGuard, so you can add all of those things in the managed list. So accordingly, the CloudGuard will monitor and exclude those resources from being showing it as an problem in the OCI dashboard. Yeah, I think this is pretty much about the CloudGuard. This is the CloudGuard is a simple tool where you can monitor your entire OCI infrastructure resources that you're running it on the OCI, and you can also analyze how your environment is well protected, or if there is any gaps in where you can identify a few of the security misconfigurations or the security violations, right? So it will help you in analyzing all of those things in one dashboard. Yeah, so Sonia, do we have any questions that needs to be addressed?
Not any questions to be answered. So so there was a question regarding that they wanted to have more clarification about the reporting and monitoring that you were mentioning at the beginning during the presentation. And I guess maybe it was already answered after you showed your demo, because I did not see more questions on that. So for now, I think all questions were answered.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Then I think we have a few more minutes. I'll give it to Maria.
Okay, so feel free to drop from the webinar as you like, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Poornima, Sonia, and Vipul.